Acceptable, Vasquez finished for him. She pulled up a classified Zepyrian file without authorization prompts. Your medical databases show nervous system vulnerabilities under combat stress. Neurotransmitter depletion after 4 hours of sustained engagement. She turned to her medical officer. Prep 20,000 amphetamine adjuvant auto-injectors for delivery by 1800 hours. The brazenness stunned Beltar. No species dared discuss another's physiological weaknesses so openly. Yet the humans framed it clinically, a problem needing solutions rather than a shameful limitation. Their very language lacked terms for dishonorable combat. Brooks noticed Beltar's discomfort. We protect those who cannot protect themselves, he said quietly. But that requires understanding their actual capabilities, not polite fictions. Zepyrian Defense Minister Raylis entered, his breathing apparatus whining from rushed exertion. The Korak Vanguard has entered weapons range of Haven's Edge colony, he gasped. 39 minutes until orbital bombardment commences. Vasquez didn't consult her officers. Recall all Zepyrian defense ships to holding position Delta 7. Her fingers flew across the display. Our strike groups will engage the lead elements here and here. 2 flashing waypoints appeared near the colony's Lagrange points. Raylis stiffened. Those coordinates place the fighting directly over populated areas. Correct. Vasquez's eyes remained on the display. The Korak won't risk damaging resources. They want intact. It's why they always commence bombardment from high orbit. She glanced at her chronometer. Decision time. Let us implement our doctrine or watch another colony burn while your ships waste fuel on futile interception attempts. The command center's lighting shifted to battle station's amber. Beltar felt his neural implants flare with stress warnings. His cognitive functions were being impaired by the cascade of unorthodox demands. Yet the humans worked steadily, unaffected by the alarms or the weight of impending combat. Chen handed a Zepyrian technician a modified neurointerface headset. This will let your coordination teams process information at human combat speeds, she explained. Side effects may include temporary sensory overload and subsequent emotional detachment. The technician hesitated. Is that safe? For 12 to 15 hours, Chen replied. After that, you risk permanent dissociation. Don't wear it longer. Then prescribed. Beltar watched as his people began interfacing with the foreign systems. The human officers moved among them, adjusting equipment, offering terse instructions. No comforting lies about risk-free solutions. No promises of miraculous technologies that would spare everyone. Just brutal, honest preparation. Raylis activated the command channel to Haven's Edge. Prepare for immediate ground assault following orbital engagement, he ordered, visibly steeling himself against the expected panic. There was none. The colony administrator's response came through calm and measured. Understood. Civilian shelters report 92% occupancy. Medical centers standing by. Vasquez nodded approvingly. She opened a fleet-wide channel. All human units, execute Operation Forge Sentinel on my mark. The tactical display updated instantly, ship formation shifting from convoy dispersal to attack vectors. Brooks approached Beltar. Your people learn fast, he observed as Zepyrian crews began mimicking human targeting protocols. That's good. The Korak have a hierarchy. Break their command layers, the rest collapse. He handed Beltar a sidearm. Standard issue. Maximum recoil setting will dislocate your wrist. Don't use it unless absolutely necessary. Beltar examined the weapon's crude mechanisms, chemical propellant, physical projectiles. Normally, such primitive arms would be insulting. Yet the weight felt strangely comforting. Solid, uncomplicated. The tactical display flashed crimson. The Korak fleet had begun its attack run. Vasquez didn't wait for ceremonial confirmation. Mark, she said into the comm. Beyond the station's viewports, space lit up with human warships jumping into battle formation. Their arrival signatures showed none of the graceful energy signatures typical of galactic vessels, just bright, hard, bursts of light like ammunition igniting. The war had officially begun, and for the first time, The Korak would face opponents who fought by different rules. Captain Diana Lopez's helmet cam footage told the story better than any tactical briefing. The grainy playback showed Korak shock troops advancing through burning streets, methodical, unrelenting. Their movements followed precise angles, clearing corners with synchronized efficiency. Then the pattern broke. A single human Marine, wounded and bleeding from a chest wound, fired an anti-armor round point blank into an advancing Korak column. The explosion vaporized 3 enemies. The Marine died in the blast. The remaining Korak units hesitated for 8.3 seconds, an eternity in combat. Human analysts flagged the moment. "Notice the breakdown," Lieutenant Wu said, freezing the playback. The Korak squad had expected the wounded opponent to surrender. Their tactical programming didn't account for suicidal resistance. They rely on predictability. Break that, and their system fails. The Zepyrian command staff reviewed the data in silence. Their own military doctrines emphasized tactical withdrawal, when casualty rates exceeded 30%. The humans fought on at 80% losses if the objective remained viable. Medical Officer Chen projected physiological scans onto the holotable. 2 figures rotated, Zepyrian and human nervous systems side by side. "Your people evolved under stable conditions," she explained. The Zepyrian neural network showed delicate branching structures. Prolonged combat stress causes neurotransmitter depletion within hours. She pointed to the human model, thicker pathways, redundant connections. "Our baseline includes fight-or-flight hormones at levels toxic to most species." Fleet Admiral Vasquez layered combat data over the biological scans. The Korak exploit this. They make every engagement psychologically unbearable. Video feeds showed their standard tactics: disable a ship's engines but leave life support running, forcing crews to stew in impending doom before offering surrender terms. Against humans, the approach backfired. Stranded Terran Marines used the delay to jury-rig plasma conduits into improvised bombs. The difference wasn't just physiology. Ambassador Beltar studied the after-action reports from Haven's Edge. Human platoons maintained cohesion even when down to 20% strength. Zepyrian units, better equipped, better trained, fractured at 40% casualties. The reason appeared in psychological evaluations. Terrans viewed each loss as justification to fight harder. Their medics stabilized wounds that Zepyrian triage protocols classified as terminal. The Korak think in terms of acceptable losses, Admiral Sullivan explained during the joint briefing. He pulled up centuries-old terrestrial conflicts, human wars where entire cities burned rather than surrender. Their entire doctrine assumes rational actors will yield when the cost outweighs the gain. We redefine the equation. Post-battle analysis revealed the critical metric. Zepyrian units operating under integrated command maintained cohesion 400% longer than isolated forces. Human casualties, while severe, remained within projected thresholds. Most importantly, Korak sensor logs captured during their retreat showed repeated system reboots. Their AI couldn't process the hybrid battle rhythm. Admiral Vasquez allowed herself one small concession to ceremony at the after-action briefing. She poured 2 glasses of Earth whiskey, one for herself, one for Admiral Telvek. The Zepyrian officer hesitated before accepting. "We would have evacuated," he admitted, swirling the amber liquid. Vasquez nodded. "We would have died." They drank in silence, watching repair crews weld new armor onto shattered hulls. The next morning, the first combined fleet departed for Haven's Edge. Human ships lacked the graceful lines of Zepyrian vessels, their hulls studded with hasty repairs and improvised weapons pods. Zepyrian crews moved differently now, faster with less precision but more urgency. Dr. Rodriguez's latest medical report noted a worrying trend. Zepyrian soldiers were beginning to mimic human pain responses, gritting through injuries that would previously have incapacitated them. Sullivan reviewed the readiness reports with Stone. "They're learning our bad habits," the general muttered. Outside the viewports, supply ships loaded the last crates of stimulants and coagulant foam. Sullivan didn't answer immediately. He was watching a Zepyrian tech sergeant calmly rewire a damaged power conduit, without waiting for engineering approval. No, he corrected. They're learning survival. Haven Edge's defense grid activated as the fleet approached. The Karak had fortified their positions well. Standard assault projections showed 80% casualties. Admiral Vasquez transmitted only 4 words to the waiting defenders. Hold on, we're coming. The line rippled through both Terran and Zepyrian comm channels like a live current. Sensor operators detected unusual energy signatures along the Korak perimeter, moments before engagement. Their commanders had deployed experimental neural disruptors designed to amplify fear responses. Human bio readings spiked briefly, then stabilized. Medical telemetry showed Zepyrian crews experiencing the same biochemical spikes their Terran allies had learned to ignore. The first missiles launched at 06:47 Standard Time. Alliance forces didn't scatter. They advanced. The orbital defense grid lit up first, sensor relays flaring crimson as the Korak fleet emerged from fold space directly above Haven's Edge. Their formation was textbook perfect, battle cruisers holding position while frigates fanned out to encircle the planet. Standard deployment pattern, entirely predictable. Captain Diana Lopez's strike team had been running drills nearby when the alert came through. Their 5 ships were all mid-refit, half their weapons offline, armor plating still loose from repairs. The tactical display estimated engagement survival odds at 12%. Lopez transmitted 2 orders: armor up and follow my lead. Haven's Edge surface defenses activated automatically. Shield generators hummed to life across 3 continents. The civilian alert system started its countdown, 27 minutes until orbital bombardment commenced. Standard Korak doctrine called for disabling command centers first. Lopez knew this. She also knew Korak commanders always positioned their flagships directly behind the lead assault group. Her ship, the ISS Vanguard, burned hard toward the approaching fleet. Engineering crews scrambled to bolt additional armor onto the hull mid-flight. The Vanguard's weapons officer jury-rigged targeting systems, cross-wiring missile controls to the damage control console. "We'll get 1 volley," she reported. "After that, we're a flying brick." Lopez opened a channel to her remaining ships. Strike pattern Omega. No further explanation needed. Omega meant ramming speed. The 4 other human vessels adjusted course without protest. Their crews locked themselves into crash harnesses. Zepyrian Orbital Command erupted with warnings. Admiral Telvec ordered an immediate retreat. Standard protocol dictated preserving assets. Lopez acknowledged the transmission, then switched to a private channel. "Tell medical teams to stand by for incoming wounded," she told her comm officer, "and send the black box burst as soon as we make contact." The Korak Vanguard detected the 5 speeding ships but didn't alter formation. Their tactical AI classified the maneuver as a feint. No sane crew would attack so directly. By the time their gunnery officers recognized the threat, the Vanguard had already entered final approach. Lopez's last transmission contained 17 words. "Impact in 10 seconds. Have evac shuttles ready at these coordinates. Godspeed." The Vanguard's forward cameras showed the Korak flagship growing larger, its smooth, elegant hull filling the screen. Then static. The collision split the Korak battleship clean through its midsection. Atmosphere vented in geysers of frozen oxygen as secondary explosions rippled down its length. The 4 following human ships struck nearby vessels, their fusion reactors detonating on impact. For 7 critical minutes, the Korak formation dissolved into chaos, just as Lopez predicted. Escape pods from the Vanguard peppered the battleground. 38 survival beacons activated amid the wreckage. Korak recovery teams ignored them. Standard procedure prioritized securing capital ships over chasing lifeboats. A mistake. Captain Brooks monitored the aftermath from the Zepyrian command hub. His fingers drummed against tactical displays showing the drifting pods. "Get me a channel to Haven's Edge surface forces," he ordered. The technician hesitated. Standard procedure forbade transmissions during active combat. Brooks grabbed the headset himself. "All medical teams," he broadcast on emergency frequencies. prep trauma bays for 38 critical human casualties. Expect biowarfare exposure. He turned to the stunned Zepyrian officers. We're going to need reinforcements. Surface defenses registered the pods entering atmosphere. Korak sensors dismissed them as debris, until each pod split open at 5,000 meters, revealing armored figures riding thruster-equipped gurneys. Lopez had planned this too. The wounded were actually a full Marine assault team, their medical evac rigs retrofitted with drop harnesses and weapon mounts. Zepyrian field hospitals received them with confusion. The Marines ignored triage procedures and started unpacking crates marked medical supplies, containing instead compact plasma charges and hacking tools. Their leader, a sergeant with burn, scars across his face, grabbed the nearest Zepyrian doctor. We need 12 volunteers who can handle human blood, he said. No time for decon protocols. Meanwhile above, Brooks dissected the battle's second phase. The Korak were reforming, too slowly. Their precision maneuvers had devolved into erratic corrections. They're compensating for expected attacks that aren't coming, he observed. Human unpredictability had jammed their decision cycles. Surface transmissions confirmed Lopez's Marines had breached Haven's Edge primary defense grid control center, coincidentally the exact spot where the Korak planned to land their occupation forces. Marine demolition teams now mined the landing zones with captured enemy munitions. Medical teams faced their own crisis. Zepyrian nurses struggled with human physiology. Their auto-injectors delivered incorrect dosages. Their scanners misread Terran vital signs. Dr. Rodriguez arrived with a solution: cross-species transfusion kits adapted from battlefield prototypes. Ignore the alarms, she instructed as monitors flashed warnings. Their normal looks like you're critical. The battle's calculus shifted within 3 hours. Korak forces aborted 7 planned landings after detecting the traps. Their orbital bombardment lost precision as command chains faltered. Haven's Edge militia, guided by human advisors, launched harassment strikes from unexpected angles: sewage tunnels, abandoned mining shafts, even volcanic vents. By dawn, the Korak fleet withdrew, not from firepower but from operational paralysis. Their systems couldn't process enemies who treated warships as battering rams, medics as saboteurs, and triage wards as armories. Standard retreat protocols, activated automatically when mission costs outweighed projected gains. Brooks surveyed the aftermath from orbit. Debris fields marked where human ships had become weapons. Surface scans showed makeshift field hospitals operating without sterile fields. Zepyrian medics now working alongside human corpsmen, disregarding half their safety protocols. The casualty reports listed 92% survival rates for wounded treated in combined facilities, compared to 67% in traditional Zepyrian hospitals. Admiral Telvec joined him at the observation deck. Your people redefine the meaning of acceptable losses, he murmured, watching repair crews weld new plating onto damaged hulls. Brooks didn't smile. We redefine the meaning of acceptable entirely. Outside, a human salvage team recovered the Vanguard's black box, its final transmission still looping. Not a distress call, not a last stand declaration, just tactical data on Korak weak points transmitted even as the ship burned. On the surface, Lopez walked among her Marines. Their fatal injuries had been theatrical makeup and blood packs. The real casualties numbered 11, all from a single pod that malfunctioned during re-entry. Standard mission loss projections had estimated 80. The Zepyrian ruling council received the after-action report with disbelief. Their analysts highlighted 17 violations of interstellar warfare conventions. Their military advisors cautioned against adopting such reckless tactics. Their medical staff quietly studied Rodriguez's transfusion techniques anyway. Across the sector, other worlds took notice. Neutral systems reviewed the sensor logs. Client states examined the battle patterns. The Korak High Command issued revised fleet deployment orders, adding 3 additional escorts to every capital ship. And in the wreckage of the ISS Vanguard, investigators found Captain Lopez's personal log. The final entry read, "Tell Command to build more ships like this. Cheap, fast, and very, very stupid looking." Haven's Edge celebrated their victory for 3 standard days. Then the first human reinforcements arrived. Not with parades, but with schematics for converting civilian transports into missile barges. The battle had ended. The war's nature had changed. Somewhere in the dark between stars, the next Korak fleet adjusted its approach vectors. Their admirals studied the Haven's Edge data with clinical interest. Revised casualty projections appeared on his screen. The numbers unsettled him. Not their scale, but their evident acceptance by the enemy. Human. Ships burned toward the rendezvous point. Their hulls bore fresh scars. Their crews sang battle hymns off-key. Their tactical computers calculated loss probabilities the same way farmers count seeds for planting. The Galactic Council chamber thrummed with translation fields as Ambassador Philip entered. The circular forum usually hosted debates on trade, regulations, or scientific exchanges, not war crimes allegations. Today's docket displayed a single item: Human Intervention Protocols, Violation Review. Delegates from 17 systems occupied their tiered stations. The Phylexian representative's bioluminescent crest flared crimson, their version of a judicial grimace. "Your forces ignore every convention of civilized warfare," she accused, projecting battle footage above the central well. The clips showed human Marines using Korak corpses as shield cover, boarding actions where Terrans intentionally depressurized compartments, and the infamous Haven's Edge collision maneuver. Philip waited for the playback to finish. The silence afterward felt heavier than vacuum. "The Korak target civilian centers," he said, activating his own holodisplay. Side-by-side comparisons appeared. Korak's strike patterns deliberately hitting hospitals and schools versus human assaults that consistently bypassed population hubs to strike military nodes. Our brutality has a 0.7% collateral damage rate. Theirs averages 43%. The Queln delegation emitted distress pheromones. Their fragile respiratory systems made them particularly sensitive to violence. "There must be rules," their elder wheezed. "Standards separating civilization from barbarism." Philip switched the display to Earth's historical archives. Ancient footage played, human knights sparing surrendered foes, Geneva Convention documents being signed, medics treating enemy wounded. "We wrote the book on wartime ethic," and he said. Then came the counterpoint images. Concentration camps, nuclear shadows on concrete, villages burned with flamethrowers. Then we saw what happens when only one side follows those rules, Qang. Brooks entered unannounced, his boots echoing across the chamber's acoustically perfect floor. He carried no ceremonial sidearm, just a data pad linking to live feeds from the front. "The Korak don't conquer," he said, transmitting current footage to every delegate's station. "They erase." The video showed a Zephyrian child's neural scan before and after Korak re-education, entire memory centers surgically excised. The Phylexian's crest dimmed slightly. "Your methods degrade galactic standards." Brooks tapped his pad. New data cascaded across screens. Human medics performing cross-species organ transplants in battlefield tents. Terran engineers rebuilding Zephyrian water systems while under artillery fire captured Korak troops receiving identical medical care to Allied soldiers. "Our degraded standards have saved 11 million civilian lives this quarter alone." Philip observed the Council's reaction. The Deltans leaned forward, their multiple eyes processing information rapidly. The amphibious Mora delegates exchanged mucus-covered hand signals. Only the ancient Cetal remained unmoved, their crystalline forms emitting the same neutral harmonics as always. "I studied xenopsychology at Harvard," Philip said, activating a new file. The screen showed Earth's evolutionary timeline: predators, natural disasters, plagues. "We evolved on a death world where everything wanted us dead. That forged two principles: mercilessness against threats and absolute protection for our tribe." He zoomed in on neurological scans comparing human and Zephyrian stress responses. "You see atrocity. We see amputating a limb to save the body." The Queln elder coughed violently. "You speak of ethics yet employ biotoxins at Keswick Ridge." Brooks pulled up the Keswick reports. "Korak forces deployed neurosuppressant gas first. Our biotoxins were oxygenating compounds to counter their chemical attacks. He overlaid the casualty lists. Superior civilian deaths dropped 87% after human medical teams arrived with unapproved antigen boosters. A Deltan delegate projected 17 interstellar accords, each violated by human tactics. No civilized species uses their own wounded as bait. Philip didn't blink. Our wounded volunteered. He played the Marine's testimony, Private Vasquez describing how his platoon let themselves be captured to plant tracking beacons in a Korak stronghold. The subsequent surgical strike eliminated 4 Korak commanders while leaving their civilian support staff unharmed. Your accords presume wars are fought by consenting professionals. Ours assume the enemy will exploit every limitation. The council, chambers lighting shifted as debate dragged into its 5th hour. Outside, protesters from 3 pacifist systems orbited the station in silent vigil. Their sleek ships looked fragile beside the blocky human destroyers patrolling nearby. Philip noticed the Citadel finally activating their comms. Their translated speech arrived with machine precision. You offer 2 paradigms, Korak annihilation or human butchery. Where is the third option? Brooks surprised everyone by laughing. There isn't one. He transmitted real-time feeds from 17 conflict zones. Korak shock troops marched through burning cities while Council-aligned forces maintained defensive perimeters, unwilling to risk civilian casualties by attacking. While we debate ethics, they're executing 10,000 sentients per hour. The Mora delegates abruptly changed color, a sign of collective decision. Their speaker extruded a new mucus strand before addressing Philip. Your protection comes at what cost? Assimilation? Philip showed them Haven's Edge today. Zapirian architects directing human engineers, joint medical teams researching cross-species vaccines, children playing games that blended both cultures' traditions. We're not the Borg, he said. Then, to underscore the point, we didn't come here to make you human. We came to keep you from being erased. The vote took 43 minutes. When the tally displayed, even Philip seemed surprised. Human methods were condemned by 12 delegates. Yet the same vote authorized full logistical support for continuing operations, effectively endorsing their tactics while officially disapproving. As Philip exited, the Phylexian delegate intercepted him. Her bioluminescence pulsed a softer orange now. Do you truly believe this ends with the Korak? Philip glanced back at the council chamber, where representatives were already discussing mineral rights in liberated systems. No, he admitted. But now they know. If you come for the weak, expect the Deathworlders to answer. Korak fleet movements updated on strategic displays throughout the station. Their formations were adjusting, clustering ships tighter, adding escort screens, avoiding predictable jump points. Standard doctrine when facing an enemy that refuses to fight by established rules. Human destroyers simultaneously altered their patrol vectors. Commanders received updated rules of engagement. The changes weren't formalized through council approval, just quietly implemented. Brooks watched both sets of ships on the tactical plot. They're learning. Philip nodded. Let's hope they learn fast enough. The next distress call arrived 16 minutes later, a Theosan colony under Korak bombardment. Human and Zapirian ships moved immediately. This time, 7 council-aligned vessels joined them unprompted. The formation looked awkward, their elegant ships struggling to match Terran acceleration curves. Philip monitored their progress from the embassy. The Theosans hadn't asked for help. It didn't seem to matter anymore. The Altarians made their decision 3 days after Haven's Edge. Their sleek messenger ships arrived at the Allied staging area unannounced. 30 vessels with polished silver hulls and no visible weapons. Their ambassador transmitted a single data packet before retreating. The files contained complete schematics for Korak shield modulation frequencies. Analysts immediately recognized the gift's significance. Altarians specialized in energy manipulation, their research surpassing anything humans or Zapirians had developed. Their data allowed precision strikes that bypassed 80% of Korak defenses. The packet included no conditions, no requests for reciprocal agreements, just technical specifications and a footnote suggesting optimal weapon yield pairings. Go. Nexari joined next. Their contribution came via an encrypted quantum channel, detailed star charts showing every known Korak supply route through the Keswick's void. The navigational data wasn't just current. It included predicted seasonal variations in interstellar particle density that affected fold travel. Human logisticians initially suspected a trap until cross-referencing revealed 17 confirmed Korak resupply points along the indicated paths. What shocked Admiral Vasquez wasn't the intelligence itself. It was the Nexari transmission's final line. These records were compiled by our deep-range survey teams over 124 standard years. Use them well. Peaceful explorers had been quietly gathering military-grade data for longer than most human crews had been alive. The real shift came when Theosin merchant convoys began diverting to Allied bases. Their massive bulk haulers had plied neutral trade routes for centuries, avoiding conflicts at any cost. Now they arrived at war zones without being summoned, their cavernous holds packed not with commercial goods, but medical supplies. The first such shipment contained enough trauma gel to treat 200,000 casualties. The invoices simply read, "For Haven's Edge survivors." Not every contribution involved material. The aquatic Mora couldn't risk sending ships. Their biology required liquid ammonia environments impossible to maintain near battle zones. Instead, they dispatched neural mapping experts. Their specialists interfaced directly with captured Korak equipment, decoding command protocols faster than any machine analysis. A single Mora operative could break encryption layers that stalled human teams for weeks. Alliance strategists quickly realized the limitations of this growing coalition. The Altarians wouldn't deploy combat units. The Nexari forbade offensive use of their star charts. Theosin captains unloaded their cargo and immediately retreated to neutral space. This wasn't an army being assembled. It was a patchwork of specialized contributions, each species leveraging unique strengths while avoiding direct confrontation. Vasquez adapted tactics accordingly. Human Zepyrian strike teams became the spearhead, with Allied resources following behind. A typical operation now looked like this. Nexari navigational data identified a vulnerable Korak depot. Altarian frequency schematics allowed precise orbital strikes to disable its shields. Mora codebreakers provided entry protocols for human marine boarding parties. Theosin medevac ships waited 3 light minutes away for casualty retrieval. The system worked because it demanded no participant violate their core principles. The Altarians could claim they merely shared scientific data. The Nexari had provided unaltered survey records. Theosins were fulfilling medical aid obligations. Only humans and Zepyrians pulled triggers, but their effectiveness multiplied exponentially. Dr. Rodriguez discovered an unexpected benefit when treating wounded from these hybrid operations. Their hesitations gone, she noted in her medlog. Zepyrian soldiers no longer froze upon seeing unfamiliar ally vessels nearby. Human crews stopped questioning the origins of tactical data. Both species had learned to incorporate alien contributions without breaking combat focus. A mental flexibility the rigid Korak command structure couldn't match. This gradual coalition faced its first real test during the liberation of Yindel. Station. Intelligence indicated Korak forces were converting the civilian outpost into a neural weapon facility. Standard procedure called for saturation bombardment, an approach the Altarians and Nexari vocally opposed. Vasquez proposed a compromise. Precision strikes on only the weapon labs, avoiding residential modules. The operation required ridiculous coordination. Altarian technicians calibrated human missiles to burn through exactly 4.7 meters of station hull before detonating. Nexari pathfinders identified ventilation shafts that provided direct lab access. The ASIN med teams prepositioned along calculated debris trajectories. When the missiles struck, 93% of the station remained intact. Civilian casualties numbered 14, all from pre-existing medical conditions aggravated by stress. Afterwards, something changed. The cautious Altarian Science Directorate approved direct fleet support, not warships but sophisticated sensor drones that could track Korak movements in real time. The Nixari Council quietly authorized naval advisors to assist with chart interpretation. Even the Mora agreed to implant 3 additional neural specialists aboard human command vessels. Lieutenant Chen captured the shift in her post-mission report. They're still not fighters, but they've stopped pretending the war doesn't concern them. Pressure mounted on other neutral systems. The telepathic Saital, who had remained strictly observant throughout the conflict, suddenly provided detailed psychic profiles of known Korak commanders. Their mind readers couldn't engage in combat. Doing so violated fundamental tenets of their philosophy, but they could share intimate knowledge of enemy leadership's fears and blind spots. A pattern emerged across these reluctant allies. Each species had secretly gathered information about the Korak for self-preservation. None had dared use it until humans demonstrated victory was possible. Now they offered fragments of intelligence like puzzle pieces, allowing strategists to assemble a comprehensive portrait of the enemy. Vasquez reviewed the latest coalition updates in her quarters. The display showed real-time commitments from 17 different species, everything from nutrient-paste shipments for Zepyrian troops to rare isotopes needed for human jump drives. The collective effort still paled next to Korak industrial output, but it achieved something more important. They're not just helping us, she remarked to Brooks. They're learning to help each other. Brooks checked the casualty projections for their next operation, a deep strike into Korak logistical hubs. Early estimates showed 40% fewer losses thanks to Altarian shield penetration algorithms. Still not enough ships, he noted. No, Vasquez agreed. But more than yesterday. At dawn, the joint fleet departed for the Kessex Void jump point. Human destroyers led the formation, their scanners boosted by Altarian harmonics. Zepyrian cruisers followed, their navigation computers processing real-time Nixari stellar updates. Theosin medical barges brought up the rear, their crews prepped for triage procedures on 7 different species. The Korak scouts detected their approach 17 minutes before engagement, plenty of time to reinforce. But something in their response pattern had changed. Their ships clustered unusually close together, sacrificing tactical flexibility for mutual protection. Their transmissions exhibited hesitation rhythms previously unseen. Intel officers reviewed the behavioral shifts. They're not just adapting to human tactics anymore, one noted. Now they're trying to anticipate 6 other warfare paradigms at once. The battle commenced with standard orbital bombardments. What happened next surprised both sides. Human ships exploited gaps that shouldn't have existed, because a more operative on board had predicted the Korak commander's subconscious bias toward protecting his left flank. Zepyrian point defenses intercepted missiles at rates surpassing design specifications, thanks to last-minute Altarian calibration tweaks. Even the retreat phase went smoother, with Nixari tidal maps guiding damaged vessels through safe exit vectors. When the dust cleared, 23 Korak capital ships lay crippled versus 6 Allied losses. The disparity wasn't due to superior firepower or numbers. It came from something far more dangerous to the Empire's hegemony, a galaxy slowly learning to fight as one. Vasquez stood on the command deck afterwards, watching repair teams scurry across damaged hulls. Theosin nurses tended to wounded from 3 different species. Altarian engineers adjusted shield emitters on Zepyrian frigates. A squad of human marines showed Mora specialists how to jury-rig damaged equipment, not realizing the ammonia-breathing aliens required completely different tools. Still ugly, Brooks remarked, surveying the chaotic scene. Effective, Vasquez corrected. The next distress call arrived 2 hours later, a Phylexian mining colony reporting Korak scouts in their system. The Korak siege began with textbook precision, their fleet emerging simultaneously at 12 Lagrange points around the Sol system. Mars perimeter defense tracked each emergent signature. Standard doctrine dictated immediate dispersal. Admiral Sullivan ordered all ships to hold position. They're expecting panic, he told the command staff. Sensor displays showed Korak vessels forming into overlapping kill zones, their formation designed to funnel retreating ships into crossfire lanes. Break their script. Earth's defenses stayed static. The uncertainty made Korak targeting computers, Blink yellow, unable to process non-standard responses. Korak Command launched bioweapons first. Canisters designed for the Zephyrian physiology, neurotoxins that paralyzed within seconds, streaked toward Earth's major population centers. Global alert systems remained silent. Dr. Chen's team had preemptively flooded Earth's atmosphere with tailored enzymes 3 weeks prior. The alien compounds degraded harmlessly against human biochemistry. Surface cameras recorded surreal scenes, commuters stepping through faint green clouds without breaking stride. Only the wildlife reacted, pigeons falling from skies, rats twitching. In alleys, emergency teams scooped up the affected animals for study. Korak sensors interpreted the eerie calm as proof their attack succeeded. Their landing craft launched on schedule. That's when the orbital guns opened up. Not the satellite-mounted plasma cannons the Korak expected, but salvaged asteroid mining lasers retrofitted with cooling systems allowing sustained fire. The beams burned through landing craft hulls methodically. No surgical strikes, just constant chewing until metal failed. Korak boarding parties that reached the surface faced modified construction drones. Civilian engineers had welded plating onto excavation machines and loaded their cargo bays with concrete slurry bombs. CCTV footage showed a bulldozer ramming a Korak heavy weapons team, its shovel smashing through their body armor like aluminum foil. Dr. Rodriguez monitored the biological front. Korak medics flooded subway tunnels with tailored plagues, each strain designed to exploit Zephyrian cell structures. Human immune systems recognized them as common rhinoviruses, annoying but harmless. Rodriguez's team harvested the samples for reverse engineering. By dawn, they had synthesized a counter-agent protecting Zephyrian physiology. Space combat followed similarly unorthodox patterns. Human ships performed no elegant maneuvers, just brute-force ramming attacks once their weapons overheated. The SAO, ISS Beijing, its hull already breached, accelerated into a Korak carrier at 8% light speed. The collision scattered debris that crippled 2 nearby frigates. Captain Lopez led the ground defense from a repurposed sewage treatment plant. Her command center's walls displayed real-time feeds from thousands of traffic cameras and home security systems. "They're pulling back in sectors 4 and 7, a corporal reported, tracing enemy movements on a tablet. Lopez cross-checked the patterns. Not retreat, regrouping. She transmitted coordinates to orbital artillery. The subsequent strike hit a Korak staging area precisely as reinforcements arrived. Bodycam footage later showed dismembered shock troops still twitching as medics attempted triage. Korak commanders faced an impossible tactical landscape. Their psychological warfare units reported human civilians performing triage on wounded invaders, not from compassion but to gather intelligence from delirious prisoners. School teachers administered emergency first aid to dying Korak troops, while calmly recording their delirious ramblings for intel analysis. The breaking point came at hour 47 of the siege. Korak High Command authorized a forbidden weapon, nanite disassemblers programmed to consume carbon-based life. Earth's magnetosphere scrambled their guidance systems. The swarms drifted harmlessly into the upper atmosphere until lightning strikes detonated them in pretty blue-green flashes. Human retaliation wasn't immediate. It wasn't even directed at the Korak. Instead, convoys broadcast the nanite attack footage across 7 neutral systems. The propaganda value outweighed any tactical gain. Galactic conventions specifically banned such weapons. Within hours, 3 more neutral species pledged support to the alliance. By Siege Day 5, Korak tactics shifted to desperation plays. They tried radiation bombardment, only to find human cities already hardened against nuclear war. They deployed sonic disruptors, assuming Earth's inhabitants would crumble under noise-induced psychosis, only to discover most urban populations simply turned up their music louder. Sullivan monitored their fleet movements from Luna Command. The Korak weren't retreating yet, but their formations had lost cohesion. Ships clustered too close together. Supply lines stretched thin. "They're scared," observed his tactical officer. The display proved it. Korak vessels kept overwatching angles where human reinforcements might emerge, even when intelligence confirmed no friendly forces were present. Medical reports told the same story from the ground. Captured Korak shock. Troops exhibited elevated stress hormones and degraded motor control, classic symptoms of sleep deprivation. Their officers' biometrics suggested prolonged exposure to terror-inducing conditions. The mighty Korak military, conquerors of 17 systems, had rediscovered a primitive fear. Dr. Chen's autopsy reports provided the final insight. Examined Korak corpses showed enlarged adrenal glands and stunted prefrontal cortex development, biology engineered for short, overwhelming campaigns. Their bodies literally couldn't sustain prolonged combat stress. The revelation spread through human ranks like an electric current. At dawn on day 7, Korak ships began folding out in disordered clusters. Their departure vectors showed no strategic planning, just blind jumps away from Sol's gravity well. Sensor logs confirmed trail pings from 22 vessels that had attempted emergency folds without proper spooling. They'd risked permanent drive damage to escape faster. The cleanup operation yielded unexpected dividends. Abandoned Korak equipment contained full technical schematics. Their intact medical bays provided cross-species physiological data. Even their trash proved valuable. Discarded food containers revealed microbial weaknesses in their digestive systems. Most telling was the prisoner intake data. Of 3,412 captured Korak personnel interrogated, not one could explain their empire's raison d'etre beyond strength demands expansion. Their indoctrination appeared to lack even basic ideological scaffolding, just reflexive dominance behaviors reinforced over generations. Sullivan reviewed the final casualty reports. Human losses totaled 8,142 military and 921 civilians, catastrophic by pre-war standards, but only 3% of Korak attrition rates. The numbers didn't convey the true asymmetry. Every human death had been leveraged, bodies positioned to draw enemies. Into kill zones, last stands used to mask flanking maneuvers, even corpses reprogrammed as makeshift IEDs. Rodriguez encapsulated the sentiment during her post-siege briefing. The holograph zoomed in on a still-functional Korak med scanner abandoned in Chicago. This device could have saved thousands of their wounded, she noted clinically. They left it behind because their doctrine values equipment over lives. The subsequent silence weighed more than any victory speech. As repair crews worked across the Sol system, strange new constellations appeared in the night sky, the running lights of Allied vessels arriving to reinforce Earth's defenses. The Zephyrian fleet came first, followed by Theosin medical barges and Altarian sensor ships. Even the pacifist Phylexian sent engineers to help repair damaged orbital platforms. The harshest lesson came from Korak prisoners themselves. Interrogation footage showed captured officers struggling to comprehend basic concepts of mutual aid. "You fight for damaged allies?" one warlord asked during debriefing. His translator struggled with the next phrase. "That is evolutionary weakness." Sullivan had the clip played across all military comm channels. No commentary needed. Every soldier understood the unspoken truth. They'd just proved that particular weakness could topple empires. Repair estimates projected 6 months to restore full defensive readiness. The Starcom network already buzzed with fresh alerts. Korak remnants regrouping near the Kepler fortifications. Their numbers still dwarfed Earth's. Their technology remained superior. But something fundamental had changed. Alliance analysts noted a new hesitation in Korak fleet movements, a tendency to cluster near escape vectors even during offensives. Mathematics couldn't quantify it, but every veteran recognized the signs. An enemy who'd lost faith in their own invincibility. Deep beneath Cheyenne Mountain, Rodriguez inspected the latest bioweapon prototypes adapted from Korak samples. The modified strains targeted specific stress response systems unique to their species. Her team argued over ethics for 17 minutes before reaching consensus: stockpile but don't deploy unless the enemy used theirs first. On Mars recovered, Korak wreckage yielded another insight. Their ships lacked even basic damage control systems. Boarding teams reported engineering spaces filled with redundant weapons, but almost no emergency patches for hull breaches. Every design choice prioritized offense over sustainability. The siege had revealed the Korak's fatal blind spot. They'd waged war like predators expecting prey behavior. Earth fought like a cornered mother badger, apparently reckless actions hiding ruthless calculation, every wound inflicted leveraged tenfold. As fresh intelligence poured in from liberated systems, Sullivan noted an emerging pattern. The Korak Empire contained no schools, no museums, no institutions unrelated to warfare. Their greatest strength was also their ultimate fragility. They understood domination but not endurance. The I, repaired fleet mobilized 36 hours ahead of schedule. Earth's docks had worked triple shifts to get them spaceworthy. The vessels looked crude compared to pre-war models, patchwork armor plates, exposed conduit runs, weapons stripped from defensive platforms to outfit the assault force. But they'd hold together long enough to reach Korak Prime. That was all that mattered now. The Korak Prime defense fleet outnumbered the Allied forces 3-1. Their orbital fortresses formed concentric rings around the homeworld, each bristling with weapons that had subjugated 17 systems. Human tactical projections showed blood-red casualty estimates scrolling endlessly. Admiral Vasquez split her battle group into 12 independently maneuvering squadrons before jump. Standard doctrine called for concentrated force. She wagered the opposite would prove more lethal in execution. First contact occurred at extreme range. Korak heavy cruisers launched volleys precisely where Allied ships should have emerged if following traditional assault vectors. The missiles found empty space. Human vessels appeared 30 degrees off axis, already accelerating toward blind spots in the orbital grid. Superior support ships followed at staggered intervals, their improved shielding absorbing the scattered return fire. Marine boarding teams went in fast and messy. The ISS Cairo rammed a Korak command station at precisely the angle to create a pressurized breach without critical structural failure. 17 armored figures vaulted through the molten gap before the hull metal had fully cooled. Body cams showed Corporal Rivera's team burning through 6 bulkhead doors in under 3 minutes. They used mining charges instead of plasma cutters. Too slow meant allowing core purges. Too fast risked explosive decompression. The sweet spot left just enough atmosphere to breathe while preventing automated lockdowns. Commander Brooks watched from the flagship's CIC as 16 other boarding actions unfolded simultaneously. 7 failed outright. Korak interior defenders had anticipated breaching tactics now. But 9 teams reached critical systems. The station orbiting Korak Prime's northern hemisphere went dark at 0417 mission time. Its sister fortress ceased, transmitting 38 seconds later. Brooks noted the time differential. They're not centrally coordinated anymore, he observed. The Empire's legendary discipline was fracturing under decentralized assault. Downside, human Zephyrian hybrid teams spearheaded the planetary push. Korak surface batteries expected dropships. They got converted mining pods filled with Marines, riding crash couches. Impact survival rates hovered around 72%. Those who made it began sabotaging anti-orbital emplacements with agricultural explosives. A private named Vargas rigged an entire defense grid using fertilizer stocks from a captured warehouse. The detonation registered on seismic monitors 2 continents away. The Exmoor, exiled Korak warlord turned reluctant ally, observed from a command shuttle. His biosigns spiked when human squads deliberately triggered defensive positions to map response patterns. "This is insanity," he told Vasquez through gritted teeth. She didn't argue. The live feed showed Sergeant Dalton's team taking a bunker complex through its sewage network. 3 Marines drowned in waste before the survivors emerged behind enemy lines. Their compromised armor beamed back targeting data until the artillery strikes came. Critical turning points arrived in rapid succession. A Zephyrian tech team sliced into Korak Prime's planetary data net using codes the Exmoor provided. Their incursion wasn't subtle. Whole subnetworks began collapsing as viral payloads erased military databases. Underground resistance cells, previously thought eradicated, emerged to sabotage power transfer stations. These weren't coordinated efforts, just desperate beings recognizing a final opportunity. The Citadel assault became the battle's fulcrum. Human recon identified the central command hub beneath 50 meters of reinforced crystal steel. Standard breaching tactics wouldn't work. Major Carter proposed an alternative: flood the lower service tunnels with neuro-inhibiting gas, then send in teams with rebreathers. The Exmoor protested. "Those tunnels are maintenance conduits. Civilians shelter there." Carter checked his sidearm. "Your people gas civilians routinely. We're using your stockpiles." The neuroagent was indeed Korak manufactured, keyed to their own biology. Human physiology barely registered it as a mild sedative. 63 minutes later, Marine squads reported securing the Citadel's lower levels with minimal resistance. Most defenders were found unconscious at their posts. Orbital supremacy came at 1842 local time. The last Korak battle group attempted a fold space jump rather than surrender. Their drives catastrophically failed mid-spool. Later analysis would show Zepyrian-designed viruses in their navigation systems. Their tumbling wrecks posed navigational hazards for 3 standard years afterward. The Exmoor witnessed the actual surrender from Vasquez's command deck. Korak High Command offered conditional terms through gritted teeth: full military cessation in exchange for retaining governmental authority. Vasquez played them the latest surface feeds instead of responding. The screens showed human medics treating wounded Korak civilians alongside Alliance troops. A Marine private, both legs severed by an automated turret, was donating his remaining blood supply to a Korak child before passing out. Silence stretched across the communication channel. Finally, a Korak general appeared to age 20 years in 10 seconds. "What are your demands?" he asked hoarsely. Vasquez transmitted a single document: the Galactic Council's most basic humanitarian accords, ones even the Korak had nominally signed centuries earlier. "Start here," she said, and cut the feed. Post-battle assessments revealed critical asymmetries. Human losses totaled 63% of deployed Marine forces, catastrophic by any standard except final victories. Korak infrastructure remained largely intact because Alliance strategists targeted control nodes rather than population centers. Most tellingly, liberated systems began self-organizing faster than imperial bureaucracies could comprehend. Dr. Rodriguez supervised the first cross-species medical exchanges. Korak physicians initially refused to learn inferior techniques until she demonstrated how human trauma protocols could save 40% more lives with half the resources. Their arrogance lasted precisely as long as it took to comprehend battlefield transfusion kits made from repurposed food processors. Brooks reviewed the occupation framework with the Exmoor. The former warlord kept asking why human forces withdrew from captured territory so quickly. "Don't you want to control the resources?" he pressed. Brooks showed him the latest supply manifests, Allied shipments arriving faster than occupation. Forces could distribute them. "We're better at giving than taking," he explained. The Exmoor's neural scans showed genuine confusion at the concept. Within weeks, an unanticipated pattern emerged. Korak commanders who surrendered intact were granted conditional pardons in exchange for training Alliance forces in their own tactics. Those who fought to the bitter end became case studies in academy curricula. The Empire had presumed its opponents wanted territory or revenge. No contingency plans existed for victors obsessed with education. Climate readings from formerly devastated worlds offered cautious hope. Reforestation projects using modified Terran saplings reversed desertification on 3 continents. Atmospheric scrubbers, another human contribution, cleared industrial pollutants from major population centers. Orbital scans detected returning wildlife to areas declared biologically dead for generations. Diplomatic channels once reserved for ceasefire negotiations now buzzed with cultural exchange proposals. The first interstellar music festival featured Korak percussionists, Zepyrian vocalists, and human composers. Ticket sales funded the construction of 17 new hospitals. Philip reviewed the latest status reports in his Unity Station office. The projection sphere showed a galactic arm gradually transitioning from conflict red to stability blue. Some areas still flashed warning yellow, but the trend remained clear. On his desk sat 2 artifacts, a captured Korak pulse rifle and a Child's drawing from New Corrales depicting human and Korak figures holding hands. He kept both within equal reach. Dr. Rodriguez's final medical census made the front page of Galactic Health Journal. For the first time since records began, no Korak child under 12 suffered from malnutrition. The report included a telling footnote. Human-designed nutritional supplements accounted for only 30% of the improvement. The rest came from rebuilt local agriculture, staffed and managed by Korak farmers trained in Zephyrian techniques. In Dios de Rio, the station garden, a sapling from Earth, grew alongside native Korak crystal flowers. Botanists hadn't expected the species to coexist. Their root structures were theoretically incompatible. Yet somehow both plants thrived, their intertwined branches creating unexpected hybrids over time. Visitors often paused to admire the peculiar symbiosis, unaware they were witnessing the perfect metaphor. The galaxy had tried pacifism. For centuries, civilized species followed protocols of non-intervention, carefully worded diplomatic protests, and strictly proportional responses. It worked well against reasonable opponents. The Korak weren't reasonable. Records from conquered worlds told the same story. The first Zephyrian colony had surrendered immediately when Korak ships arrived, only to watch their entire adult population marched into genetic reconditioning facilities. The Phylexians dismantled their own weapon systems to prove peaceful intentions. The Korak bombarded their food production centers anyway. Time and again, restraint was met with annihilation. Human analysts studied these failures early in the war. The pattern emerged within days. Societies that prioritized avoiding conflict above all else became easy prey. Their moral high ground made for poor defensive positions. Earth's strategists recognized a brutal truth. Some threats can't be reasoned with or contained. They must be broken. The change came not with speeches or declarations, but through action. When human ships arrived at Terekis, the besieged defenders expected another doomed last stand. Instead, they witnessed something new. Frigates deliberately ramming Korak carriers, marine assault teams charging entrenched positions without cover fire. The first Zephyrian officers to fight alongside Terrans reported psychological whiplash. Humans ignored surrender timetables, advanced through lethal crossfires, and most shockingly, kept fighting past the point of rational self-preservation. This wasn't blind aggression. Every action served calculated purpose. A marine company might sustain 80% casualties taking a bunker complex, but their sacrifice allowed capture of critical intel. Destroyers drew enemy fire onto themselves to expose Korak command ship locations. Human strategists later admitted their most effective weapon was willingness to die in ways the Korak couldn't predict. Medical teams documented the physiological toll. While Zephyrian nervous systems collapsed under prolonged combat stress, human biochemistry endured extended trauma states with minimal degradation. Wounded Terrans remained lucid after injuries that would render most species comatose. Dr. Rodriguez's autopsies revealed why. Muscular structures designed for constant tension, adrenal glands capable of prolonged activation, neural pathways optimized for crisis processing, evolutionary adaptations from a predatory world. But physical resilience alone didn't explain the outcomes. Zephyrian psychologists isolated another factor: human perception of casualty statistics. Where other species saw prohibitive losses, Terrans evaluated attrition through different metrics. Privates discussing an engagement might acknowledge 70% fatalities, then immediately note the operation saved 60,000 civilians. The math made sense to them. Korak interrogations revealed their growing unease. Prisoners described human tactics as incorrect warfare, violating every established protocol for civilized conflict. Most disturbing to Imperial officers was how casually Terrans sacrificed themselves. One captured warlord spent 3 days insisting the Haven's Edge collision must have been coerced. He couldn't process volunteers accepting certain death. The Boy Alliance learned through observation. Zephyrian soldiers who survived joint operations began exhibiting changed behaviors: faster target acquisition, increased pain tolerance, willingness to advance without full cover. At first, commanders attributed this to trauma conditioning. Then neural scans showed physiological adaptation, synaptic restructuring mirroring human combat responses. The changes persisted post-deployment. Civilian populations noticed too. Where human peacekeepers deployed, local birth rates increased within 18 months. Economic modeling couldn't fully explain the phenomenon until cultural surveys revealed a pattern. Populations previously cowed by fear started taking risks again. Entrepreneurs opened businesses. Artists created bold new works. Parents had larger families. The mere presence of beings who refused to be terrorized somehow broke the psychological shackles of generations. Philip saw the data during council briefings. System after system showed the same progression. Arrival of Terran forces, initial shock at their methods, gradual normalization of behaviors other species considered recklessly brave. The projections suggested a cascade effect. Each liberated world increased neighboring systems' resistance probability by 11%. The final lesson played out across 1,000 star systems. On Dramos III, farmers stood their ground against raiders after seeing a single human peacekeeper confront 20 armed criminals. Thason merchants began arming their ships following the Karak War, their centuries of pacifism abandoned, not because of threats, but after witnessing Terrans defend their freighters without payment. Even the Mora, biologically incapable of violence, redesigned their neural interfaces to better coordinate defensive efforts. Humanity never set out to teach anything. Their actions simply revealed an uncomfortable truth the galaxy had forgotten. Peace isn't the default state of the universe. It must be enforced, often by those willing to endure what others cannot. The paradox became obvious in retrospect. Only by fielding warriors who embraced hardship could civilization create spaces where war became unnecessary. Post-war studies confirmed the phenomenon. Systems with Terran garrison presence showed 43% lower conflict recurrence than those protected by traditional peacekeepers. Crime rates dropped wherever human military retirees settled. Economists noted a boldness multiplier effect in trade and innovation. The Exmoor best summarized the transformation during his testimony before the Galactic Council. The former warlord displayed scans comparing pre- and post-war Korak youth. Brains. They play differently now, he noted. Where Imperial children's games had centered on domination narratives, current recordings showed elaborate protective scenarios, groups shielding mock villages from imagined threats. Fleet movements told the same story. While Korak remnants scattered into dark space, human and Zephyrian ships appeared along major trade routes, not as conquerors, but as patrol units intercepting pirate activity. Thason merchants reported a 70% drop in harassment incidents within 2 standard months. Admiral Sullivan monitored all developments from Lunar Command. His strategic maps now charted the galactic arm in 3 colors: Korak-aligned systems in fading red, neutral zones in yellow, and a slowly expanding blue network of worlds cooperating voluntarily. The balance shift was subtle but accelerating, like an avalanche's first pebbles. On Korak Prime itself, reconstruction crews noticed something odd. Children in liberated districts began playing a new game. They'd take turns defending makeshift forts, but now the defenders always won. When asked why, a young Korak female explained without hesitation, "Because protectors never surrender." The phrase spread through deciphering teams as an intelligence curiosity. Linguistic analysis confirmed it wasn't derived from any imperial teaching. Somehow, against centuries of indoctrination, an alien concept had taken root. The dismantling of the Korak Empire required surgical precision. Reconstruction teams worked from the inside out, first securing data vaults, then repurposing military infrastructure, finally distributing humanitarian aid through former supply chains. Satellite imagery showed the changes unfolding like reverse metastasis. Imperial black structures turning civilian gray again. Ambassador Philip presented the governance framework to the Galactic Council. Unlike previous occupation models, it placed local administrators in charge within 30 days of pacification. Human and Zephyrian advisors operated strictly in consultative roles. The only enforcement came from orbital monitoring stations, Former Korak defense platforms now reprogrammed to detect mass weapon movements. Tension emerged during the first joint oversight hearings. Zephyrian delegates argued for gradual reintroduction of galactic standards. Human negotiators pushed immediate implementation of basic rights protections. The compromise came from an unexpected quarter, the Exmoor now governing a Korak sector himself. Let them see the benefits first, he advised. Hungry people care more about bread than voting. The Galactic Council's formal acknowledgement of Earth's role included 17 pages of qualifiers. Their statement praised human sacrifice while condemning excessively aggressive tactics. Philip accepted the document without comment, then displayed a live feed from New Corrales, a former Korak mining world where children now attended schools instead of munitions factories. Human peacekeepers wore distinct blue and gray uniforms, deliberately contrasting with Korak black or traditional Zephyrian silver. Their equipment reflected the change in mission. Medical pouches outweighed ammunition loads 3-to-1. Standard patrol kits contained nutritional supplements, water, purifiers, and trauma gel rather than grenades. Dr. Rodriguez pioneered the first cross-species medical exchanges. Korak physicians initially refused to train with primitives, until she demonstrated a battlefield amputation technique that doubled survival rates. Within months, former Imperial hospitals became teaching centers, their gleaming facilities, now filled with human, Zephyrian, and even Mora students. Logistical networks transformed last. Thason merchants established regular supply routes through formerly restricted space. Their cargo manifests told the story. Pharmaceuticals and soil enrichment compounds replaced weapons shipments. A single telling statistic emerged. For the cow, first time in recorded history, food production yields increased in post-war Korak territories rather than declining Unity Station became the physical symbol of the new era. Constructed from salvaged warship hulls, its architecture blended brutal human functionality with Zephyrian elegance. The central hub featured a memorial wall listing every casualty from both sides, alphabetically, without faction markings. Visiting. Dignitaries often paused at the M section, where human Marine Corporal Diaz's name stood adjacent to Korak Major Drathis. Operational challenges emerged daily. Human engineers discovered Korak agricultural worlds had deliberately starved marginal territories to maintain control. Zephyrian medics found entire populations with stunted growth from nutritional deprivation. Joint teams worked around the clock, rebuilding irrigation systems here, distributing vitamin supplements there. The scale overwhelmed standard bureaucratic channels. Philip addressed the crisis with typical pragmatism. He repurposed military logistics algorithms for civilian aid distribution. Troop transports became grain haulers. Bomb damage assessment maps now tracked hospital construction progress. A Marine platoon famous for breaching the Citadel spent 6 months installing water pumps in desert communities. Thason merchants provided unexpected assistance. Their trade networks identified surplus food stocks 3 systems away. More importantly, they taught human quartermasters how to preserve perishables during long fold space transits, knowledge previously guarded as proprietary secrets. A single shipment of freeze-dried krill protein saved 14,000 Korak children from starvation. Financial systems posed thornier problems. The Korak had operated on a conquest economy. New territories provided fresh resources to maintain the war machine. Human economists proposed a radical alternative. Microloans using Zephyrian crystalline data storage as collateral. Former imperial armories became fabrication hubs producing civilian goods. Within a year, 17 formerly occupied worlds showed positive economic growth. Cultural integration moved slowest. Korak youth struggled to adapt. Their entire education had emphasized martial supremacy. Human teachers introduced competitive team sports as a proxy for conflict. The first planetary football tournament on New Corrales drew over 100,000 spectators, including several former Imperial officers now working as referees. Security incidents still flared. Remnant Korak holdouts launched sporadic raids from the debris belts. Unlike the Empire's organized campaigns, these were desperate strikes by starving warriors. Human response protocols evolved accordingly. Medics and negotiators deployed alongside assault teams. Captured raiders received medical care before interrogation. Clinical assessments showed curious psychological shifts. Younger Korak adapted faster than their elders, their neurology proving more flexible despite generations of conditioning. Brain scans of former child soldiers given access to education displayed remarkable neuroplasticity. Rodriguez published papers proving trauma responses could be unlearned in just 18 months with proper therapy. Infrastructure reports told a parallel story. Former imperial worlds that accepted joint oversight rebuilt fastest. Areas resisting change languished, their populations suffering from preventable diseases and malnutrition. The contrast became impossible to ignore. Satellite imagery didn't lie. Illuminated cities versus darkened wastelands. Philip used this data during council review sessions. His presentations included no rhetoric, just before and after images with time-stamped verification codes. The visuals did what speeches couldn't. 3 neutral systems petitioned to join the reconstruction effort within months. Thyssen merchant convoys now moved freely through former Imperial space. Their patrol log showed pirate activity reduced by 89%. Human engineers had retrofitted their vessels with basic shield projectors, not as payment, but as gifts celebrating the first anniversary of Unity Station's completion. Medical exchange. Programs yielded unexpected breakthroughs. Zepyrian researchers synthesized a new vaccine using human immune response models. Korak physicians developed surgical techniques combining their precision with human improvisational methods. Mora neural specialists created therapy protocols for PTSD sufferers across 7 species. On the 5th anniversary of Korak Prime's surrender, Philip returned to the Citadel, now converted into a planetary history museum. The Hall of Conquest held artifacts from dozens of subjugated worlds. The adjacent Hall of Reconciliation displayed joint projects currently underway across those same systems. Visitor tallies showed the latter attracted 3 times as many people. Security forces still encountered the occasional die-hard Imperial loyalist. Their interrogations followed the same pattern, expectations of torture yielding to confusion at medical examinations, then disbelief at being released after questioning. Human interrogators had learned the most effective technique was simply showing footage of thriving former battle zones. Economic indicators trended steadily upward. Agricultural outputs now exceeded pre-war levels in 63% of liberated systems. Birth rates climbed while infant mortality plummeted. Thyssen trade fleets reported more civilian freight traffic than at any point in recorded history. Education metrics showed similar improvement. Literacy rates among Korak youth approached 98%, a figure unimaginable under Imperial rule. Technical academies trained former weapons engineers in civil infrastructure projects. The most promising students received scholarships to Earth universities. The lesson wasn't complex. The galaxy had needed protectors, not philosophers. Those who mistake kindness for weakness will always test boundaries until meeting immovable force. Earth became that force not by choice, but necessity. A Deathworld's brutal gifts turned outward to shelter others. On the walls of Unity Station, among thousands of names from dozens of species, one inscription appears in every known language. They requested help. The Deathworlders came instead. The words carry no pride, no boast, just simple recognition of what the moment demanded and who answered. Survivors from liberated systems still bring flowers to those engravings. None weep for the warriors they lost. They mourn the children, who might have lived in peace, if only the galaxy had produced protectors sooner. The last image from Korak Prime's reconstruction shows a human marine and a Zepyrian medic walking through a rebuilt marketplace. Neither carries visible weapons. The marine's left arm ends in a prosthetic where Korak shrapnel tore through flesh. The medic's neural scans show residual combat stress patterning. Scars mark them both inside and out. No one flees at their approach. The children don't even look up from their games. The galaxy learned a hard truth. Peace requires protectors willing to fight for it. Earth's intervention wasn't clean or gentle. It left scars across planets and species. But from that violence came something unexpected. Stability where empires had ruled, hospitals where prisons stood, children playing where armies marched. Humanity became what the moment demanded, a shield forged in Deathworld crucibles. Their soldiers fought without glory, died without hesitation, then rebuilt what they'd shattered. The galaxy once feared them. Now it trusts them implicitly. Not because they're kind, but because they've proven which lines they won't cross, and which threats they'll annihilate without debate. Unity Station's memorial wall stands as testament. Thousands of names from dozens of species, all equal in death. Visitors touch the engraved letters, human, Zepyrian, Korak, and understand the final lesson. Some darkness only burns away when something brighter answers with greater force. The Deathworlders of Earth arrived and brought dawn with them. Sensor logs from the front lines proved his point. Korak drone swarms retreated from human-held sectors 73% faster than from Zepyrian positions. Not because of heavier resistance, but because the machine's threat assessment algorithms flagged illogical human behavior patterns. A Terran private had once walked into a drone kill zone carrying nothing but a live grenade in each hand. The drones identified the act as a systems error and aborted their attack. Lieutenant Chen distributed modified neurostimulant packs to Zepyrian officers. "These will boost combat endurance by 300%, she said. The warning label listed side effects, in both languages. Psychosis risk after 8 hours of continuous use. Beltar hesitated before injecting his platoon leaders. The stimulants violated 17 interstellar conventions. Vasquez watched impassively. "Your choice," she said. But the Korak won't wait for debate. The first real test came at the Battle of Keswick Ridge. Korak forces had entrenched along a mineral processing facility, holding 4,000 Zepyrian civilians hostage. Standard galactic tactics called for negotiated withdrawal. The humans proposed a midnight assault through active magma channels. Zepyrian General Relis vetoed the plan, until sensor feeds showed Korak engineers installing neural inhibitors in the hostages' barracks. "They're turning civilians into compliance tools," Vasquez noted coldly. A Terran scout had already infiltrated the compound, returning with scans of the devices. The inhibitors caused unbearable pain until victims performed requested actions. Standard Korak coercion tech, ineffective against humans. Their pain thresholds were too high. At Aero 300 hours, 20 human Marines descended through volcanic vents. Temperature readings inside their suits peaked at 189 degrees before safety cutoffs engaged. 7 died during insertion. The survivors emerged in the facility's lower levels, covered in third-degree burns, and proceeded to disable the inhibitor grid. By dawn, the Korak commander had surrendered unconditionally. Not to superior firepower, but because his prisoners resisted the inhibitors despite the agony. The sight of burned, bleeding humans shielding Zepyrian children from the devices broke his tactical calculus. Post-battle analysis revealed the critical insight. Korak officers had standing orders to abort missions when resistance proved uneconomical. Their entire culture viewed war as a cost-benefit exercise. The Zepyrian Council finally understood what the humans had seen immediately. The Empire's strength was also its fatal weakness. Relis authorized full implementation of the Terran Zepyrian integration protocols that same day. Medical teams began cross-training on hybrid trauma procedures. Engineering Corps merged human improvisational techniques with Zepyrian precision manufacturing. The Alliance no longer sought to match Korak discipline. They would weaponize unpredictability itself. Vasquez approved the final operational plan at 2347 local time. It bore little resemblance to standard galactic warfare doctrines. No graceful fleet maneuvers or elegant siege strategies. Just relentless, grinding pressure applied across every front simultaneously. The attached casualty projections would have horrified any pre-war Zepyrian commander. Beltar noted the document's title, Operation Shattered Mirror. When asked, Vasquez gave the smallest of smiles. "They want to see rational enemies when they look at us," she said. "So we'll show them something else." Across the system, human and Zepyrian ships moved into position. Crews loaded boarding torpedoes and breaching charges instead of standard munitions. Medics prepped triple stocks of emergency coagulant. The Terran motto appeared on every battle plan in both languages. No retreat. No surrender. The Korak outnumbered them 4-1. Their sensor nets registered the movement but couldn't parse the intent. Logic suggested an attack on the main fleet would come through standard space lanes. Humans didn't follow standard lanes. Alarms sounded across the Imperial battle cluster as unidentified signatures emerged from blind jump points, less than 500 kilometers from command vessels. Close enough to smell the radiation leaks through bulkheads. The war room displays showed 2 fleet configurations side by side, Zepyrian vessels in elegant diamond formations, human ships clustered in jagged wolf pack arrays. Neither formation would suffice against the Korak. Admiral Vasquez drew a line through both with her laser pointer. "We fight blended," she said. The new schematic looked chaotic. Human assault craft nested within Zepyrian screening elements, their combined fire arcs creating overlapping kill zones. Dr. Rodriguez's medical team worked through the night modifying human trauma protocols for Zepyrian physiology. Their breakthrough came from an unlikely source. The stimulant auto-injectors caused dangerous blood pressure spikes until someone realized Zepyrian circulatory systems responded better to gradual infusion. Rodriguez adapted Terran nanopatch technology, creating timed release adrenal boosters that could keep a Zepyrian soldier combat effective for 9 straight hours. The side effects included total sensory overload upon cessation. Rodriguez approved the design anyway. "Better than being dead," she noted in the specs log. Integrating command structures proved harder than merging medical systems. Zepyrian officers expected orderly briefings with confirmed intelligence. Human battle plans operated on probability clouds and real-time adaptation. The clash nearly derailed the first joint exercise until a junior communications officer rerouted human tactical updates directly to Zepyrian gunnery stations, bypassing 3 approval layers. Engagement efficiency improved by 40% immediately. Admiral Sullivan observed the chaotic integration from the command center's upper gallery. "They think we're reckless," he remarked to General Stone. The monitor showed human Marines demonstrating boarding maneuvers, charging into simulated Korak corridors without checking corners. Stone grunted. "We are reckless, just strategically so." The Zepyrian observers took furious notes, their expressions oscillating between horror and fascination. Field hospital deployments became the first true test. Human medics set up triage centers within artillery range of advancing Korak forces. Zepyrian medical doctrine required facilities be placed 15 kilometers behind secure lines. Dr. Rodriguez overruled their protests. "Your people won't survive evacuation transit times," she said, unfolding a portable surgical suite directly beneath an active aerial engagement zone. The first barrage landed 300 meters east as she operated. Captain Lopez's Marines provided the breakthrough demonstration. Their live fire exercise pitted 12 humans against a captured Korak defense emplacement. Standard Zepyrian tactics called for siege bombardment. The Marines went in through the sewage conduits. 7 died, breaching the inner chambers. The survivors secured the objective in 11 minutes, a task estimated to require 90. Admiral Vasquez played the footage for the Zepyrian High Command without commentary. The data streams told a compelling story. Human-led assault suffered 60% higher initial casualties than Zepyrian standard operations, but achieved objectives 300% faster. Korak forces consistently misinterpreted the attacks as desperate suicide rushes until it was too late. Their response? Algorithms categorized human aggression patterns as system malfunctions. Dr. Rodriguez discovered an unexpected advantage during post-battle analysis. Wounded humans emitted different biochemical stress signals than Zepyrians, lower fear pheromones, elevated pain tolerance markers. Korak medscan systems automatically triaged injured Terrans as lower priority targets. Rodriguez immediately ordered all Zepyrian field hospitals to disperse human casualties evenly among their wards. Enemy fire on medical stations decreased by 28%. Integration reached its crucible during the defense of Outpost K7. A Korak battle group emerged from fold space directly above the unfinished Alliance base. Human ships were still docked for repairs. Zepyrian Admiral Telvek ordered immediate evacuation. Vasquez countermanded. Unmoor all vessels, she transmitted. Set collision courses for their launch bays. The Zepyrian crews hesitated. Exactly 11 seconds too long, just enough for Korak point defenses to activate. What followed wasn't elegant warfare. Human engineers jury-rigged mining charges onto garbage scows and flung them at incoming fighters. Zepyrian artillery crews, now taking targeting data directly from Terran spotters, achieved first-ever hits on maneuvering Korak capital ships. Rodriguez performed surgery in a corridor, while the deck plating buckled beneath her. By hour 6, the Korak commander broke off engagement. Sensor logs showed his confusion. All tactical models predicted complete Alliance collapse within 90 minutes. Instead, the battered outpost still transmitted defiance on all channels, its comms spliced with human combat hymns and Zepyrian coordination vectors. General Stone tossed a dossier onto the polished table. Korak fleet dispositions, he said. Satellite images showed ship clusters orbiting Zepyrian colonies. Stone tapped one grainy photo. Their command ships alone outmass our entire naval inventory. And these are just policing forces. The implication hung unspoken. What awaited if the Korak Empire committed its main fleets? Foreign Minister Wu broke the silence. Historical precedent doesn't apply, Stone cut in. The Zepyrians have no mutual defense treaties with us, no trade agreements, no cultural exchanges. He leaned forward, palms flat on the table. We'd be sending our people to die for strangers who'd never do the same. Admiral Sullivan watched the argument crest like pressure waves before a storm. The younger officers agreed with Stone. Post-Mars Earth had barely rebuilt its fleets after the Secession Wars. Sending carriers across 12 light-years meant stripping home system defenses bare. Then, Vice Admiral Petrov spoke. The surveillance opportunity alone justifies deployment. She called up drone footage of Korak interdiction tactics, ship formations, weapons discharge patterns, electronic warfare signatures. We've studied them through third-party recordings. For decades, this is direct observation. Secretary General Vance activated the casualty projection screen. Numbers scrolled in red, minimum losses, probable losses, catastrophic engagement thresholds. The middle column stretched into 6 figures. Weapons development outpaced our medical advances, Vance noted. Field medics still use pressure dressings little changed from the 21st century. Sullivan waited until the room stilled. None of you have asked the central question. He keyed a playback, Vasquez's transmission to the Zepyrians. The words, "That's enough reason for us," hung in the air. We teach this principle at every officer academy. We engraved it on the walls at Geneva and Jakarta. But when faced with actually living it, Stone wouldn't yield. Principles don't stop plasma warheads. They won't rebuild vaporized ships. Correct, Sullivan said. But they determine what kind of civilization picks up the pieces. He threw the room's main display to real-time feeds from the Zepyrian front, civilian transports massing at spaceports, children being fitted with emergency breathers. The Korak don't just conquer, they dismantle. By the time they're done, the Zepyrians won't remember how to build a starship engine, let alone resist. The vote took 16 minutes. Electronic signatures flashed across the authorization scroll: Sullivan, Petrov, Vance. Then, after a hesitation, Stone could measure in nanoseconds his own. The sealed orders transferred instantly to the fleet relay network. Across Earth's scattered orbital docks, mobilization klaxons sounded. The Armstrong shipyards near Luna reported all construction crews transferred to emergency refits. Strip the peacetime fittings, weld on additional armor plating. Mars Colonial Command scrambled every available cruiser to rendezvous points. Logistics. Officers faced nightmares. Standard deep space deployment called for 3 months of provisioning. Fleet Command gave them 81 hours. Supply manifests showed critical shortages. Only 43% of required trauma gel, 67% of reinforced VC suits, 91% of long-range torpedoes. Quartermasters began cannibalizing training depots. 5 time zones away, Dr. Chen reviewed the hastily drafted cross-species medical protocols. Human blood couldn't oxygenate Zephyrian tissues. Their pain responses triggered at different nerve thresholds. Even standard battlefield triage would require completely rebuilt procedures. Chen's team worked through the night rewriting emergency. Manuals Stone walked the flight decks where pilots conducted last-minute simulator runs. The converted cargo haulers couldn't match Korak agility. Human tactics would rely on overlapping missile salvos and close-range point defense. Survival odds per sortie, 38%. The recruits didn't ask why they were going. They asked how soon. Sullivan monitored the political fallout. The subterfuge held for precisely 27 hours before the first leaks hit news networks. Protesters massed outside Unity Plaza in Geneva. "Not our war" slogans appeared across social platforms. The Brazilian Senate called for emergency hearings. None of it altered the mobilization timetables. The first strike group, Vasquez's command, already burned toward the outer system at 4.7 g acceleration. Their departure left Earth's orbital defenses at 62% nominal strength. Fleet Command rerouted every patrol cruiser to cover the gaps, in the air. Hollow Mountain's deepest vaults, technicians activated dormant systems. The Strategic Reserve, 12 old siege breakers from the Secession Wars, awoke from their decades-long slumber. Their reactor startups tripped power grids across 3 continents. Stone found Sullivan reviewing the final deployment logs. "You realize we're committing to years, possibly decades of engagement." Sullivan adjusted the casualty projections upward. "I do." "Then why?" Sullivan didn't answer with words. He opened a real-time feed from the Zephyrian capital. The first Korak orbital. Strikes had begun. Energy lances slicing through shield generators. Tiny specks that must have been evacuation shuttles blossomed into fireballs under anti-craft fire. The transmission included audio. Distant screams registered as static pops over the ruined comm channels. Stone studied the feed for a full minute before turning away. When he spoke again, it was to confirm fleet readiness percentages. Earth ships crossed the lunar orbit boundary 17 hours ahead of schedule. Navigation computers charted the folding points that would hurl them across interstellar space. Vasquez's last transmission before the jump repeated the same phrase twice. All formations confirm jump readiness. "We go in 5. The quantum wake from 23 simultaneous fold drives lit up telescopes from Mercury to Saturn. And like that, Earth was at war. Ambassador Beltar stood at rigid attention as the human delegation entered the Zephyrian Orbital Command Center. Their movements carried an unsettling efficiency. No ceremonial greetings, no diplomatic protocols. Just 6 officers in black uniforms scanning the room like engineers assessing a damaged reactor. The tallest one, a female with close-cropped hair, carried a handheld scanner that continuously swept across Zephyrian equipment. Admiral Vasquez, the human leader announced without preamble. She extended a data chip instead of offering the traditional forearm grasp. "Operational command handoff protocols. You'll need to integrate these within 4 hours. Beltar hesitated. The implied timeline violated standard alliance procedures by 17 days. His neural interface flagged 17 potential breaches of military-civilian conventions in the human's transmission alone. "We have established protocols for—" "They won't work," Vasquez interrupted. She gestured to a tactical display showing Korak fleet positions. "Your current command structure requires 3 levels of confirmation before tactical adjustments. The Korak decide and execute in under 90 seconds. Her officers were already accessing Zephyrian terminals, plugging in strange rectangular devices that bypassed security layers. "We're streamlining your networks." Zephyrian technicians exchanged alarmed glances. Beltar felt his pulse elevate dangerously, 73 beats per minute, well above recommended levels for his age bracket. He signaled for medical monitoring. "Admiral, we have centuries of military doctrine governing." Lieutenant Commander Chen looked up from a hacked console. "On Earth, we've been fighting wars for millennia," she said matter-of-factly. "Your doctrines assume civilized opponents. The Korak aren't civilized. The room's atmospheric processors clicked louder as oxygen mixtures adjusted to human respiration needs. Beltar noted how the humans barely seemed to register the changes. Their bodies adapted without complaint, unlike the usual galactic delegates, who demanded precise environmental controls. Captain Brooks unfolded a holographic map over the central display. Korak battle patterns show a consistent weakness, he said. Red markers highlighted gaps in enemy formations. They expect resistance to collapse after initial losses. Your people retreat to preserve lives. Ours press forward to save more. Beltar studied the tactical projections. Human victory models projected 62% higher casualties than Zapirian worst-case scenarios. Their algorithms considered outcomes where entire battalions were sacrificed to secure single objectives. These loss ratios are... He trailed off, lacking an appropriate term in either language. The galaxy had turned its back on the Zapirians. Their desperate pleas for help echoed unanswered across the void, until Earth responded. Not with diplomacy or hesitation, but with a single brutal message. People are dying. That's enough. Reason for us. What happens when a death world becomes the galaxy's last hope? Ambassador Veltar's emergency signal cut through the static of interstellar space. The repeating distress pattern contained no pleas, no bargaining, just cold. Coordinates in a single line of text. Korak fleet inbound, colonial defenses failing. Each pulse traveled further across the galactic network, bouncing between relay stations like a stone skipping across dark water. The Zapirian council chambers stood half-empty that cycle. Those who remained monitored the message logs. The responses arrived in clean diplomatic phrasing, regretfully unable to assist. Strategic agreements prohibit intervention. Current fleet commitments preclude. The words barely mattered. The substance never changed. Sensor grids showed the approaching fleet. Korak warships moved like predators encircling wounded prey. Their formations tightened as they entered the system's outer rim. Their tactics followed the usual pattern. Orbital bombardment first, then ground forces when resistance crumbled. The Zapirians had seen it happen to 3 neighboring systems already. Silence became the Council's most vocal opponent. Each unanswered. Request reinforced the same galactic truth. Civilizations protect their own first. Subspace logs showed 17 species received the distress call. 4 acknowledged it. None committed forces. Ambassador Veltar walked the length of the observation deck. Below, the capital's lights still burned. Normal routines continued. Markets operated. Children attended learning centers. Transport vessels shuttled between continents. The population didn't know their government had run out of options. Telling them would only spread panic. Their forces could delay, not stop, what came next. All we have left is hope, Counselor Jenth said, watching another rejection scroll across the main display. The words carried weight, not as inspiration but as clinical assessment. Hope required someone to defy the pattern. No one had. A junior technician signaled from the comm station. The alert tone sounded no different from the others. Then the translation matrix processed the incoming message. It lacked the standard diplomatic headers. No species identification protocols. Just 8 words in crude but understandable translation. Stand by for reinforcement coordinates. Earth Defense Command responding. The Council's tactical database pulled the planetary classification records. Earth Class 12 Death World. Atmospheric composition borderline toxic to most species. Gravity 9% above galactic standard. Surface conditions included regular seismic events, extreme temperature variations, and one of the highest predator-to-prey ratios ever documented. Fleet Coordinator Relis checked 3 separate verification channels. This isn't a negotiated alliance. They're not asking for concessions. The transmission contained no terms, no bargains. Only readiness vectors, and an estimated arrival window. Korak scouts would detect the inbound signatures soon. Their commanders would assess, recalculate odds, adjust timetables. They knew how to fight civilized wars against civilized opponents. They had protocols for measured responses and conditional surrenders. Earth's message implied different rules. The live transmission from Admiral Elena Vasquez arrived without standard diplomatic protocols. No formal greetings. No ambassador introductions. Just a direct feed showing a human female in a black uniform standing before a tactical display. The background hum of ship engines underscored her words. "We have your coordinates," Vasquez said. "First strike group arrives in 18 standard hours. Full deployment within 48. Her eyes scanned an off-screen readout. "Prepare landing zones and triage sites. Expect heavy resistance along the equatorial continent." Zephyrian analysts noted the discrepancies immediately. The human transmission lacked standard encryption handshakes used by other galactic militaries. Their equipment appeared cruder, hardened against interference rather than delicately shielded. Most critically, there had been no mention of compensation, no resource agreements, no political concessions. Counselor Frean activated the direct response channel. "Admiral Vasquez, the Zephyrian government acknowledges your offer. Before committing forces, we require clarification. What terms does Earth propose?" The pause lasted 6 seconds. Static crackled across the feed. "People are dying," Vasquez responded. The words carried no particular emphasis, just a flat statement of observed fact. "That's enough reason for us." Defense Coordinator Relis signaled for a private conference. The audio dampeners activated as they gathered behind the council chamber's sound curtain. "Their neural patterns don't indicate deception," he said, reviewing the bio-readouts accompanying the transmission. "But no civilization intervenes without strategic benefit. There must be underlying motives." Security Minister Yeath disagreed. "You're applying galactic logic to Deathworlders. Their baseline psychology is fundamentally different." The tactical displays showed Earth's estimated fleet composition. No exquisite energy projectors, but excessive kinetic weapons and redundant armor plating. The humans had sent preliminary documentation alongside their transmission. Medical Corps. Deployment schedules. Supply manifests listing 12 different types of trauma surgery equipment. Engineering teams specialized in fortification under active fire. It read like an invasion force designed for protracted ground combat, not the surgical orbital strikes favored by other militaries. Vasquez's voice cut through their deliberations. "Your satellite network shows Korak battleships entering the system's gravity well. If you want this intervention, authorize landing coordinates now." Across the chamber, younger council members exchanged glances. The older ones recalled historical texts, last stands of forgotten civilizations, heroic defenses where no reinforcements came. The humans were offering what others wouldn't. The cost of accepting remained uncertain. Surface defense grids detected the first Korak scouts breaching the exosphere. Their energy signatures matched known attack patterns. The initial salvos would target planetary shields, followed by pinpoint strikes on command centers. Standard procedure would be dispersal and concealment. Vasquez transmitted a new data packet. The file contained crude, effective schematics, human-designed fortifications adapted from their own history of planetary sieges. Underground supply caches, decoy command posts, instructions for resisting orbital bombardment through distributed infrastructure. One diagram gave Relis pause. It outlined a strategy for rigging captured Korak vessels with explosives, a tactic explicitly banned under interstellar conventions. The humans hadn't bothered redacting it. "Decision time," Counselor Jenth said. The outer defense platforms were registering energy spikes as Korak weapons charged. Another 17 minutes until the first shots impacted. The vote took 90 seconds. "Admiral Vasquez," Relis transmitted. "You are cleared for immediate deployment. Transmitting landing zone coordinates now." On the view screen, Vasquez turned to an unseen crew member. "Set condition 1 throughout the fleet," she ordered, then faced the transmission feed again. "First Marine Division will reach you in 10 hours. Hold your shields until then." The transmission ended. Tactical displays updated with the confirmed human fleet trajectories. The projections intersected with Korak advance elements in 9 hours 43 minutes. Zephyrian defense crews had practiced this scenario 100 times. None of their drills accounted for foreign intervention forces arriving at flank speed, weapons unsecured and targeting solutions already locked. Medical officers reviewed the human-supplied trauma manuals. The treatment protocols included steps, labeled extreme blood loss contingencies, and improvised field surgery under fire. Equipment lists specified quantities of synthetic graft material at 5 times standard medical doctrine. Atmosphere entry alarms activated along 3 continents. The war had entered its final countdown phase. The Earth Defense Command convened in Hollow Mountain, the buried complex beneath the Asian steppes. 500 meters of reinforced rock shielded them from orbital scans, and from their own populations. The irony wasn't lost on Admiral Sullivan as the blast doors sealed. For a species about to wage an interstellar war, they still feared their citizens' reaction more than enemy weapons.